Noel is one of the newest Barrel Agency executioners created for the Tsukihime remake. Conceptually, Noel was supposed to be a replacement for Ciel, as seen with some of the scenes earlier on in the story, but was later expanded on to be another member of the church and a reminder of Ciel's past and her sins. Noel is in France at the same time as Ciel and was a victim of the French incident, where Roa, using Ciel's body and a group of dead apostle ancestors, took over and killed many, with Noel being one of the only survivors. Of course, she blames Ciel for this, even though it was Roa who was actually at fault. Thus, with little choice left, she became an executioner, but as a normal person with no talents, she was just subpar at best, and eventually was put under Ciel during the events of the Tsukihime remake, playing the role as a teacher for the time being. In the Arcueid route, due to how events occurred, with the defeat of Love, she decided to leave teaching and stopped playing a major role in the story, being more of a background character. While in the Ciel route, during the fight against Love, she was shallowly bitten, and thus she did not turn to a dead apostle. There's also another reason. Not knowing this, she slowly went insane, and in her attempts to find salvation, she did her duty while catching vampires. Instead of just ending them, she decided to torture them, prolonging their pain. She even tried to tempt Shiki into falling into her ways, which, if you follow, leads into a bad ending. Later on, she ends up getting into a fight with Ciel, and of course, she loses, with Ciel letting Noel escape with her wounds. This eventually led to Noel finding Dr. Arak and using some of Arak's idea replica serums that had that apostle ancestor blood, explaining some of her later abilities, because she lacks the natural potential to become one, eventually reaching the stage of a 6th ranked dead apostle, that in which only 1 in 10,000 can reach, being a fully self-sufficient vampire. Having completed her transformation, she becomes younger in appearance, acts more sadistic, and is freer than she was before, becoming a dead apostle, more specifically looking like she did when she was 14, when she was still somewhat happy and life was better than it was now. While she is stronger, she has the ability to utilize the mystic eyes of roses. These eyes have the ability to capture somebody's mind and, in the process, allow her to show others her memories, attacking them mentally, in her case with her trauma, or she can even seal people into said memory. She is also capable of taking an individual's soul, sealing them in her eyes so that they can live in an unending nightmare. While her eyes are a far cry from the original, which means in her case, someone with enough mental fortitude, magical energy, or resistance in Shiki's case due to Roa, are able to break through her eyes' effects, which is normally not possible with the originals. If you are unfamiliar, in the Nasu-verse, there is a concept of a person's mind, body, and soul, which are the foundation of what make a person. The mind, with the body just being a container, while the soul debatably is the most important. Using these eyes, she was able to eventually capture Ciel in them. In the ensuing battle, one of her prime motivations for this fight was for revenge, but she also knew that killing Shiki was not going to stop Roa, and that Ciel is immortal, so she is partially doing this for the fun of it, and this would eventually end up leading to her downfall, because with the help of Shiki, Ciel was able to overcome Noel's mystic eyes, and was eventually put in a position where she had lost this fight, but because she didn't give up, she took another shot of the serum, which was just too much for her, showing how she is going to suffer for wanting more power than she can handle, with thorns erupting from her body, pleading Ciel to help her, and doing the only thing she feels she can, ending Noel's life and her suffering, stopping her rampage. In the end, Noel actually ended up being a character that was unfit for the many roles she was put in, that of an executioner and a dead apostle, while she is a flawed individual who was overtaken by her own fear and some inferiority complex. I'm not gonna say she was wrong for thinking the way she did, but she is still responsible for some of her later actions, being no one's fault but her own. As a foil to Ciel, while Noel was weak, Ciel was strong. Where Ciel was possessed, having no control over her actions, Noel chose to be a dead apostle with full control of her actions. While both were victims of the incident, Ciel tried to take the path to become better, while Noel let the events of what happened consume her, becoming like those monsters she hated so much. So I ask you, what do you think of Noel's actions? Were they justified or even acceptable given the context of what happened? Meanwhile, in Multiple Type Lumina's story, which is actually at this time a prequel to the Tsukihime remake, we see a Noel who has arrived a month after Ciel to the city, who after many fights ends up encountering Vlav. And while of course she is outmatched, she refuses to run away due to her own pride and to prove she can be just as good as Ciel. And while it looks like she may have had the upper hand, Vlav does get serious and she ends up getting saved by Ciel. And in her epilogue, she does mention seeing Satsuki, her dead apostle form, ends up waking up right after transforming. The main thing to mention here is that she did encounter Roa, who during a conversation called her boring and not as interesting as Alicia aka Ciel, because Noel put so much value in wanting domain, power, and followers, where Roa desires something beyond those things. And because she doesn't give in to any of her taunts as well as insulting her, they fight and she ends up killing him. And when it seems like everything was going just right, she suddenly starts crumbling, killed at the hands of Ciel again, showing that if she takes this path, becoming an apostle, this is usually how things are going to end up. In her Boss Rush 2 story, we see her as the main heroine of the story, and while she overcomes many foes including herself, at the end of it she ends up denying this dream world and wakes up in the real world. And while she believes that that truck she got hit with was just a part of the dream, we actually find out from Shiki that he actually saved her before she got hit and that she was sick with him taking care of her. Feeling like her life is finally turning around, believing it's her time now, we see that there are 3 unhappy girls outside of her apartment, leaving Noel's fate unknown. And in Mario's story mode, he mentions that while she's not strong or anything like that, she is in fact a survivor, and in his ending keeps her as a retainer for another year, planning to send her to another church at some point in the future, and Noel proposes that she stay under him and he puts it under consideration, so things may go well for her. There's also some other fun things to mention, such as Noel trying to hypnotize Shiki into wanting a girl like her, insecurities, inferiority complex, and all, which I feel like in a way is showing a bit of her true colors and how desperate she really is. While on the other hand, Ciel does try some similar things, but only to the degree of wanting Shiki to like her and leaving home to live with Ciel. If you made this far, congratulations. If you liked the video, you might like my Dead Apostle one where I explain their rankings, or try my Melty Blood videos where it'll give you a different look at the story it was trying to tell and what may be coming for the future.